Hi, Doug from Doug Bits Tackleworld here on the Gold Coast. Today I'm going to teach you about rigging up and how to catch garfish. The rigs I'm going to use are pre-made rigs, so there's not much involved in doing that part of it, but I will show you what you need to do if you want to make your own rigs up as well. And the Burley and the rods and reels, and then how to do it. So we'll go through this one by one. So I'll start at the tackle side, which is what we're going to be rigging up. So rod and reel, anything around about a 2,500 size reel to about a 4 if you got it, if you need it, but you probably won't need a 4,000. Sorry folks. And just a little 2,500 size reel, something that's very soft on the tip, like really, really soft on the tip. If you can see that. And 7 foot to maybe 8'6". This is a rod that we use from the shoreline for gar, so you can catch gar out of your boat and from the shoreline and off the pier. This is the 8'6" rig, and 2,500 size reel, and 10-pound braid on that one. Why is it 10 pound? Because that's what's on there. But you can use 6 pound, 8 pound. But I'll be honest with you, garfish don't really give a damn about the size of your line too much. Obviously don't go 20 pounds too thick, but if you're using 10 pound or 12 pound or 15 pound braid that's really thin, or 6, 8 or 10 pound mono, that's not too bad in thickness, that's fine. If you want to use 10 or 12 pound leader, that's fine. Like I'd prefer to use a heavier leader because they swallow the hook down, you can sort of pull it out. Use 6 or 8 pound, it breaks off every time, it's a pain in the backside. And look, at the end of the day, the way I show you how to rig up, the shank of the hook's quite exposed from the bait, and if you think 12 pound fluorocarbon is going to affect the bite period, or the bites, you're joking. Because there's a big steel shank hanging out above the bait, and then you got your leader, which is very finesse in comparison, so 12 pounds fine. Anyhow, we will continue on with the tackle. So that's your rods and reels. Hook wise, I like to use about a 10 or a 12 long shank. My favourite hook's a Shinto. These guys use Japanese steel and they're extremely sharp. And I use the long shank, which is that little hook right there, if you can see that. Why do I use the long shank? A couple of reasons. One is it's easy to bait up. So I've got some shank to hold on to put that piece of bait on, which I'm going to show you a little bit later. The main objective is that when the fish hooks up, generally speaking, that part of the hook is still sticking out above the fish's mouth, and I can grab the hook and I can easily dislodge it and pull it out. If you use a short shank hook or a medium shank hook that's not too long, and they swallow it, what happens is if they swallow it, and it's a pain in the backside to get out, so you're cutting off and retying, or you may choose to wish to try and dislodge it. But it's a lot of mucking around, and while you're doing that, your mate's caught another 2 gar. So my suggestion is long shank. They don't care about the shank. They don't care about the leader. They're hungry. A garfish are very aggressive fish to eat and feed, and so finesse is not a very big part that's important on garfish. Not that I know of, and I catch a lot of gar. The next thing I use, that's the hook. 10 long shank, okay, and I like the Shinto brand in the Carlisle. So Carlisle's generally a long shank hook. If I do use a swivel, I'm using a very small hook, a size 6 crane. Why do I use crane swivels? I use crane swivels because a couple of reasons. One is they spin better, and especially on lighter line they spin better. And 2 is I just like them, it's always dark, and dark colours good in the water. If you want to use a 3-way swivel and do a second hook off your line, which you can do for garfish, and most of the rigs, I use a single and double. I use single on my children, and I use double for myself. But you can use a little, very small size 10 3-way swivel, if you can see those there. Just try and get one singly so I can show you how small they are. If you can see that fellow right there, that's how small they are. That's a 3-way swivel, so you place that about probably 50 centimetres above your bottom hook, or 40 centimetres, and run a little branch off it, and run about 15 centimetres long, and that would have your second hook on it, and the bottom other hooks down the bottom. Next thing I use is split shot. Some floats don't require split shot, and some do. Some areas don't require split shot and some areas do. So if you've got a strong current, you need to have split shot on, otherwise your bait's forever going to the surface. In saying that, you do get garfish that feed on the surface, but most of the bigger ones tend to be just down 10 or 15 or 20 centimetres below the surface. So I like to keep my bait, or the bottom bait, down a little bit, okay? So I'll use a split shot that's correct size to suit the float that I'm using without pulling it under the water. Another thing I've learned with garfish too, they don't really worry about, they're not like blackfish where that ludwig where they like to feel no resistance and they pull the float down. With the garfish, they tend to hook themselves better if the float's actually more buoyant, believe it or not. So they can't pull it down and then they try and run away and then hook themselves. So you're self-hooking with a more buoyant float. But in saying that, they're aggressive, they get hooked on any float, so it doesn't really matter. And talking about floats, there are many different types of floats, and the easiest floats are the ones that attach themselves. They have a clip at the top and a clip at the bottom, as in this style here. And these are weighted at the bottom as well, so they're really good, they're really easy to do. And you just you push the bottom up and the little ring pops at the top, you put your line through it, and then you reverse it and you pull the little flange down and it pops open and you put your line through that and then it pulls it back in and then you slide it at the depth that you want to use it at, okay? Another type of float is like a weighted turnip float or squid type float. That's a small version and they're pre-weighted, they've got a weight in the bottom of it there. But for that you'll need to use what we call, these little fellows are like, how do you explain it? There's like rubber stopper is probably the best word to say, but they're like a thing that goes onto your line and it doesn't fall down or up, it actually sticks to it. They're like a silicone bead and they grip onto the line so you can actually slide it up to whatever depth you want and the float goes up and hits that stopper and that's where it's going to go to. So that'll, if I got that on my line, just one of these little beads, just one of those little fellows, not 2, 3 or 4 or 5, just one. And that's on the line and then this will come up and it'll hit that little rubber stopper and that's as far as the float will come up. So you adjust your depth or whatever you want to suit the garfish. So that's another system. And then you got this type of system here, which is like a stem float or a pencil float. There's many different names. And these guys have like a little, also a little silicone type ring on it, which is this little thing here. I'll just pull this off so you can see that there. So what you do is you thread that through your line, or thread your line through that I should say, and then you put it over this here, okay? And then you thread your line down through here. Obviously you've pulled a bit of line off and line goes through this little tiny little hole at the end here, okay? And then you just slide it up to whatever depth that you want to have it at. And then you have your rig sitting below there. Another great thing to use. A lot of these come in pre-packets and whatever. And then you can buy pre-rigs. Actually, one more float, sorry. Clip-on floats. Now, I remember these when I was a kid. These have been around forever. And they're the same system. There's a pull-down system, little half eye pops up, a little half hook, and you just put your line through it, and then it clips down when you let go of it, and locks in. And then you reverse it, and you hold on the flange here, and push it up, and a little bit of wire pops up, and you put your line through it, and then it pulls it back down when you let go of it. And then you just slide it along the line to suit. Come in different sizes. Depends how good your eyesight is. The same with these type floats here before, the one I was showing you before. That's a little version, that's a bigger version. It just depends how nearsighted you are, because you have to concentrate on watching your float or feeling the line, because it's going to be at the back of the boat or off the shoreline, and you're watching it continuously to see if it gets pulled under or if there's a fish on the end of it. So that's your float. So then you've got pre-rigs. So pre-rigs come in all different types. So this fellow here has 2 hooks attached to it. It's a Gillies rig. They're quite well priced. They come with the float, the 2 hooks and the little sinker split shot rig ready to roll. I've actually got one on one of my lines here, I think. Yep, that's one. So it comes with a swivel. Why they leave these long tags, and I don't know. Sorry guys, I'm always adjusting people's rigs. So trim their tag. So again, you get the little rubber stopper on the top here, and you put that on and then adjust to whatever depth you want the float at. But it comes with a swivel on top. Come down here a little bit. We've got a branch line on here with a little size 10 long shank hook on there. And then we come down a bit further. I've got a bit of split shot on there, just to pull the float down a little bit straight so it doesn't line the surface like that, it lies down straight. And then at the bottom there, I've got another hook which is sitting here at the bottom. So we're running 2 hooks on this rig, and very often you catch 2 garfish at once, and I'm talking good sized garfish as well. So we'll rig one of those baits up in a moment with that rig. And this is another rig. This is one from Jarvis Walker. Similar scenario as to the rigging on that one there. Has the little rubber stoppers on it and 2 hooks as well. That fellow there, if you can see that. What else have we got here? This is it's the St. Gillies one. And that's probably going to be it. So that's the gear. So we've got your size 10 hooks. We've got floats and swivels and 3-way swivels and stopper beads and split shot sinkers to make up your own rigs. And then you've got the rods and reels, 2,500, very soft tip rod, line size 6 to 15 pounds, leader size 8 to 12 pounds would be my recommendation. And then bait. Now, the bait you need is prawns. Prawns by far the best bait. Prawns available everywhere, okay? Preferably not overseas ones, as you know, it doesn't do well for the environment, so use local prawns. What I do with the prawn, I take the head off, I shell it like I'm going to eat it, and I'll do around about 15 or 20 prawns if I want to expect to catch around 20 to 30 or 40 garfish. So that's enough. The reason being that little piece of prawn there, I'm going to cut that into about 6 pieces at least. You want to cut them about the size of a rice bubble, if you know what a rice bubble is. It's a small cereal, and I'm cutting it, if you can see my scissors here, about that size. So that's the size of my bait, if you can see that. Sorry, that's hard. If you can see that there, it's the size of my bait. So I'll cut that into about 8 pieces, that piece of prawn. So I've got 8 pieces here. That's an average size prawn. So out of 20 prawns, we've got 160 baits. Now those 160 baits, you're probably going to have around about 15 or 20 or 30 of that are bycatch, which will be bream, small hardy heads, whatever it might be that's chewing on your bait as well, and other little demersals or surface fish that are around the place. So that's one prawn, if you can see that there, for bait. That's my bait of one prawn. Then the prawn head, and the reason I clean and bait up 20 prawns, actually that's 7. That's the 8th one there, sorry. I'll take that back, there's 8. But what I'm going to do with these shells and heads is I put this into one of these little baskets, these little green baskets. This is my Burley bag. This is the essential part to make your fishing trip much, much more productive. So I'm putting all those into that bag, and I'm putting with that some bread or pellets. Pellets are by far the best because they're already enhanced with tuna oil and other pheromones and things that make the fish want to eat it. And most of your Burley pellets will actually expand. So even little pellets that you think are going to fall through the holes here will actually go bigger, and they won't fall out through the holes. And when you shake it, they'll fall out though. And we actually do a kit like this here. So you get the Burley pellets, and you get the little hand reel with the VB cord, and 3 bags, a couple of spares, a float, and a clip that clips onto the bag. Okay, so what I do is I'll fill that up with some pellets, and my prawn pieces, okay? And I'll tie always a little hole at the end here, because if you don't tie a little knot, sorry. If you don't, this will actually make a hole. So when you pull on it to let the burley sort of come out of it and give a bit of a tickle, and lots of bits and pieces come out of the bag, what'll happen is you'll explode the bottom of that bag. So just put a little knot in there, like so, like that. Fill her up, and then at the top here, I tie another knot. And with this rig here, this comes with this sort of clip on here. Actually, the bag's already on this one, so I'll want to show you this one here. So, how it looks. Sorry folks, it'll be much longer. Rubber band on here too. So you don't need the rubber band, that's just for our display. So that's your burley bag with your burley in. So that's like chocolate block, sort of not chocolate block, but half full. And then this little clip here just clips onto the bag, through the bag anywhere you want. Little shark clip. This comes off easy, just like so. These are great, these little clips. Just clip on the bag through the hole. Sorry, I do it left to right hand, so I'm trying to do the other way around. Remember, I've got this tight and knot at the top. Just clips on it. So the float's going to hold the bag up above the bottom and stop from sinking down. Otherwise, you're going to get too many bream and small squire and other little demersals just going hard on it and not allowing the garfish to actually eat it. So you need to get rid of that sort of scenario. So keep the float up as high as you can on the surface. And that's on a little reel with a 130 pound Dacron, ready to go. There's about 10 metres of line on there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to position my rig like this. So that's my boat, if you can see that there, that's the boat. And these are my fishing rods, and that's my cord, and that's my float, that orange thing there, and that's the burley bag. And that's all the burley that's just sort of whizzling out of it in the current. And if I'm in the boat, fishing from the boat, I'm casting my float. The current's going this way. I may cast it out here, but I know it's going to end up in this area once it comes down the current. Or I might just cast it straight out the back into the burley trail. But I'm trying to cast as close to the bag as I can get it, or within about 1 metre of the vicinity, or maybe 2 metres max, to end up in that area around the bag, because that's where they're all feeding. And one thing I do add to that bag is I also add a tiny bit of cooking oil. Any cooking oil is fine, or tuna oil if you want. And that'll actually just make that really oily at the back there. And it actually goes down, the burley sort of dissipates a little bit behind, but the oil goes forever. It keeps on going. And you'll see the garfish come up in like a pack of wolves. They're just sort of like this little bow wave comes up into the oil slick, and it'll keep coming up, and you go, here they are. The next minute you float, so just go dum dum dum, and you're on. And garfish have a tendency to be a bit messy. They tend to do a lot of poo. So when you get them close to the boat, my suggestion is to have a couple of wet rags there ready to get the hook out pretty easy, and stop them from pooing all over your boat, because that green seaweedy stuff makes fiberglass stain a bit. Tinnies are okay. And so that's the scenario. So that bag's sitting around about 5 metres behind my boat, around about, or 6 metres maybe, and I'm casting to it and just behind it as well. Sometimes I'll do a blind cast out here or out here, just to see if there's any others around the area, but most of them will be in this vicinity, in that area. And what will happen is you'll see the float maybe rise a little bit, or you might see it pull down a little bit, or you'll just see I see a fish jumping around. The one jumping is generally hooked, and that's it. You then play them in. Great fun for kids that watch the floats at the time. They're jumping around. When you hook them up like a little male, and they just jump out of water everywhere. And you get some quite big ones, like up to 45 centimetres. You know, some quite good, decent size, and quite round, and they're delicious to eat. So, putting the prawn on. Let's quickly show you that as well. Let's grab this rig here. Sorry, these hooks are extremely sharp. Oh, got it. So if you can see the hook there, and this is my bait here, I just put it on. It's very simple. I know you can't see it from that side, but sorry folks, just like that. It's just in there. And my second one here, the second hook, a small piece of bait, only very small. And as I was saying before, they don't care about the leader too much, because you can see that red hook is a lot more prominently standing out than that piece of fishing line, and that's very visual, so that's irrelevant. Okay, so I've got two baits on there and I'm ready to roll, and I'm going to throw it straight back in that area there and watch my float and catch a feed of garfish. And that's probably about all I need to tell you guys. If you're land-based though, just one thing I'll tell you about land-based. If you're land-based, what I would do, just take away this boat here, take away the line to that bag. What you need to do is actually stake your bag, if you don't mind walking out up to your waist in water, and that the garfish generally hang around weed beds and areas that are quite clear water. They like clear water. Current's not too bad of a problem, except for you fishing. It can be a bit of annoying, but they definitely hang around weed and clear water, and they generally like it when the water's a maximum of about 21 degrees or 22 degrees. They like that sort of sub 21 degrees. That's their favourite time. So we're on the Gold Coast, so for us it's sort of May, June is our garfish time. Once it gets down to about 18 or 19, they don't like it too much. But 20 degrees, 21 is a great temperature for garfish. So if you were here, what I would suggest to do is to place your bag, walk out. This is the shoreline here. Okay, take those rods there. The shoreline's here, and you walk out up to your waist, whatever, and maybe in that when the tide's sort of halfway or 3/4 of the way in, because you want to fish the top of the tide when there's not too much current. It's the best time. And you put like a stake in the ground and actually tie your bag off with about probably a metre of leader, or sorry, that cord off the stake. So it's always going to float up with the current and not going to be stuck on the bottom or whatever. So yeah, so it's actually the stake would be probably back this way a bit further, sorry. And then tie the line off the stake, and that's in the sand in the bottom. And then your burley's just going to come out. Your burley obviously is going to go from the shoreline the other way. Burley's going to go this way down here. Down there, current's there. So that's where your burley's going to be, all around this area here. And you're predominantly going to be, that's your fishing lines there. You're going to be fishing from the shoreline, and you're going to be casting straight at that bag again. So this is your two lines here and your two rods, and you're standing on the shoreline here, and you're casting out to that area. Sorry, it's a float there, to that bag. Probably actually going to be casting, sorry, take back what I just said then. If I was fishing here, I'd be casting here on the downside of that float, because otherwise you're going to get caught up in that pole. So you're casting on the downside of the burley bag, and I'll be sitting in the current all the way through here. So yeah, that's the scenario. So, and that'll be probably a distance of about 20 metres. So it's a fair way out, 25 metres. You need to cast your line that far to get them. They're a bit shy to come in close here, unless you've got a good spot I don't know about. But they'll be generally out like 20 metres off the shoreline at least, and you'll need to cast that 20 metres or 30 metres out to it, and pluck the garfish off that way. Once the tide goes to the outside, then you'll be fishing on this side of the bag, and the tide will be going out that way. So it's coming in now, and it goes out. Just reverse your lines onto this side. Don't throw on that side, because you get caught up around the pole. And same when you're in the boat, try not to cast on the bag, cast around the bag, as I was saying, about a metre or 2 metres away from it, and control your casting and get it right. And that's about all I can tell you about it. Just keep them on ice, keep them really, really clean. You can get a scaler bag and put all the garfish in the scaler bag. And if you're in a boat, you can tow the scalar bag behind you for maybe 400 metres, 500 metres, and the scales just come off the garfish very easy. I prefer to eat them with the skin on. They're one of the fish I do prefer skin on. And you just cut out the bones in the centre and cut out the black rib cage on the garfish when you fillet them. And best way to cook them is in butter, a little bit, tiny bit of oil, but butter, and has some lemon and garlic. It's really nice garlic powder or garlic granules. And when you've done one side with the skin down first, then you add a bit more butter, turn it over once it's half cooked through, turn it over, and then just squeeze the lemon on it at that stage, and it's really, really good. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed it and you can understand what I'm talking about. And you're welcome to give us a call here at the store, or pop in if you're in the area. Otherwise, for you guys around the area, I'm on the Gold Coast, good luck, and I hope you get some garfish, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.